Hi guys, Totallydubbed here, and today I'm doing a video review on the JBL Live 300 TWS. Now these earphones can be found for £130 in the UK. If you're interested, the locally link will take you to your localized Amazon store no matter where you live. Now what you'll find inside the box is the earphones themselves with their carrying case, a orange coloured USB Type-C to USB Type-A cable, and ear tips and ear fins. What I really like over here is that JBL have included 3 separate ear fin sizes. So if you look over here, you'll be able to see that one is pretty large, one has got nothing, and one is somewhat in between. It's nice to see the different sizes included, and the fact that JBL have actually thought about that given the different size ears. Now the case itself is nice, it's not too big. However, you'll be straight away able to note that once you plug the earphones back in terms of their charging case, this white LED light will start flashing. Now it's good to know an indicator as to when they're charging and when they're fully charged, but I wish this light wouldn't constantly stay on and be really bright, so much so that if it's on your desk, it'll be illuminating part of your desk, and yes, if you want to get rid of it, you can place the case down like this. I just would have liked it to have a quicker timeout, or the fact the LED not to be as bright. So anyway, that's worth bearing in mind. Now in terms of the charge, it takes about a couple of hours to charge from empty to full. The charging case provides 14 hours of additional playback, whilst the earbuds themselves have 6 hours of playback on a single charge. In terms of the case design itself, I've got no complaints whatsoever. I like the rounded edges, I like the size itself. If I compare it to some of its competitors, yes, there's quite a few over here, you'll see it somewhat sits in between, let's say, the Libratone Track Air Plus, which got stupidly small case, which is fantastic for portability and incredible for what it does, to compare it to someone which is quite blocky like the Edifier ones over here. So anyway, in terms of that, I'm quite impressed into what JBL have been able to achieve. Now the earbuds themselves have a really nice design, and you can see here I've got 2 different type of ear fins on the earbuds. The design itself looks nice. They come in different colors as well, so you can customize that from what you like. There's an indicator within the earbuds, which is nice, so therefore it doesn't flash to the world to say, hey look, I'm connected. It's pretty nice to see that the light LED indicator light is within the earbud. Small little point there, but it does make a difference. In terms of the design and the weight of it, I've got no complaints, and in terms of fit, I got a great fit and good passive noise isolation. It's worth bearing in mind these don't have active noise cancellation built in, but the passive noise isolation that these provide is fantastic, and given the fact that you can change the ear tips as well, it's great to see, and of course it's very important for you to get a good sound. Now in terms of the earphones themselves, in terms of how they connect, obviously they connect over Bluetooth given their true wireless earphones, and in here I was just a bit disappointed to find no aptX, aptX-HD or anything like that, like higher quality codecs. On the plus side, you do have SBC and AAC codecs. For me, on my Samsung Galaxy S10 Plus, they connected directly via the AAC codec, which is a higher quality codec of Bluetooth. It's nice to see that, but I would have liked aptX codec, specifically some of its competitors, specifically like cheaper ones. So the Creative Outlier Air Plus over here supports a higher quality codec, and that would have been better. I will also mention that via listening to music, also watching videos, be it on YouTube, which is notoriously bad for video lag, I had no issues with lip sync delays or audio delays of any sorts. So that was a good point about them. And also, furthermore, on top of that, I will say that in terms of Bluetooth connectivity and how they disconnect and reconnect with your phone, it's fantastic and very, very seamless. Another point worth mentioning is that the right driver is the master driver. In other words, you can hear music with both of them or the right driver only. If you're going to listen to music or take a phone call with your left driver only, it will not work because it needs the right driver to work. In other words, if you're the right driver in the case, this won't work. If you have it the opposite way, it can work, and of course with both you will have both of them working. So now moving on from connectivity, it's also worth bearing in mind the app. Now JBL headphone app is actually really good. I'm pretty surprised and pleasantly surprised. I like how they've done the layout of the app. It's very simple and very easy to understand. So of course you can see the battery indicator at the bottom, obviously the product that's connected. Then you've got the gestures. So here the gestures, that you can use on the earbuds. Now, I'm not a fan of their touch sensitive buttons and the way that JBL have done this specific feature, because you can't customize it. You can't customize what double triple tap does. Why should I have it so that it's only a certain feature? Furthermore, if you don't use an assistant like myself, then all these functionalities on the left driver are completely made redundant. In terms of swiping, now the swiping functionality is a little bit awkward, specifically because they've got an like the embossed or embroidered, I don't know what the word is, so therefore when you're swiping across, you can literally hear that swipe, and it's not quite pleasant when it's right in your ear and you can hear this type of noise. Anyway, it's worth bearing that in mind, but if you do get over that noise, or even if you disable it altogether, you can enable talk through and ambient aware mode. Now, ambient aware mode basically means that your music plays, but then you can also hear outside noise. Talk through mode means it completely lowers your music so that you can hear outside noise as well. So talk through is like if you're talking to someone, you don't want to get your earbuds out for some reason, you want to be antisocial, and ambient aware is if you're crossing a road, for example. That's the way I would say. Now, in terms of the right earbud, you can adjust it in terms of what it does, but it's only volume up and down in terms of swiping backwards and forwards. And then again, you've got media controls all on the right earbud, so play, pause, next track, and whatever have you. In terms of the app itself, you can enable, disable, talk through and ambient aware directly from here. It's maybe not doing it because I've got them down here, but it's worth bearing those in mind. And then if you go into the settings over here, you can also enable or disable play, pause automation. In other words, if you pick them up, they'll automatically play, put them down and they'll pause automatically. Again, that worked really well. I was very impressed by how the sensors were being picked up. So yeah, just worth bearing that in mind. And it's also got a find my buds function. If I press it over here, you can hear that, and yes, you don't want that in your ear when it's doing that, but it's nice the fact that they've got a find my buds function as well. Of course, you'll need to be in somewhat Bluetooth range for you to find them, but it's worth bearing that in mind. And then moving on, it's the EQ. Now, the EQ is actually extremely impressive, and I'll get into why I've EQ'd it in such a radical way like this, but I really like the EQ simply because it's got a completely unlimited multi-band adjustment. Furthermore, you can see the frequency that you're changing. So for those who are a little bit more aware, hopefully you'll be able to see it at the bottom there. Let's say it's at 7,000, 800 hertz there. It's great to see that you can actually see it, and then you can also see the dB that is changing. So 0 dB to -6 to +6 dB. So it's great to see a multi-band adjustment, and you're not limited in terms of what frequency you can say. And yes, Sennheiser completely screwed up in that respect, but in this app, JBL have done a fantastic job. And then obviously you can save the EQ, or you can change different EQs, or you can disable it altogether. And yes, it will remain if you just switch off the app and don't use the app. It will remain that your EQ is present within the earphone. So overall, I'm really impressed with the app integration. I like what JBL have done. Now, what about call quality? Now, call quality isn't their forte. In fact, a lot of the earphones over here that you'll see in shot aren't really that good. They pick up a lot of ambient noise, so you will be able to hear a lot of things going around from, well, your recipient will be able to hear that. And furthermore, in terms of the voice quality itself, it's average, it's not amazing, it's not the best that it could be. So again, worth bearing that in mind, that if you're going to be taking a lot of calls, maybe you'll want to look for earphones which are more dedicated for taking calls, rather than these earphones. So call quality is somewhat average, but again, comparable to some of its competitors as well. Now, moving on to the sound quality of these earphones, and here is what absolutely took me by surprise. These earphones sound fantastic. Now, I did mention before, why I'll get into why that dramatic EQ reduction, simply because out of the box, they're way too sibilant. In other words, the highs are a little bit too piercing. They do provide a little bit of ear fatigue. Obviously, your mileage may vary depending on your hearing, but for me, I had to really drastically reduce that high end. But when I did reduce the high end, and of course the EQ is there and you can play around with that, it did mean that the earphones did produce a stunning sound. So much so that I was comparing them directly to the Sennheiser Momentum True Wireless 2. I was comparing it to some of my favorite earphones like the Libratone Track Air Plus, and ones which took me by surprise as well, the Anker Liberty Pro 2. So I was very impressed by the sound quality of these JBL earphones. Going through the sound frequency, frequency, you've got a decent sub-bass extension, you've got a tight, punchy mid-bass, you've got nice forward-sounding mids, which is the same thing that you could say about these Creative earphones, for example, which are very warm-sounding. Then the highs, as I mentioned, when tailored down, have got a good extension and aren't sibilant to the point where it's ear-piercing in your ears. So that was all very impressive. The only thing I would say, the only flaw I would say, is that they're quite close-sounding in comparison to, let's say, the Anker earphones or the Sennheiser ones, or let's say the Creatives. These are way more open sounding, more airy sounding, and they've got a better instrument separation and width and depth to them versus the JBLs. So on the whole, in terms of sound quality wise, I was pretty impressed. And what do I make of these earphones? Well, quite frankly, at their price, I can see myself recommending them. They're not perfect, but neither are all the other earphones that I've mentioned over here. I really, really rate these earphones. I'm very impressed with what JBL have done. I'm taken by surprise given some of their previous products they've made in the TWS area. So there we go, guys. I've been Totally Dubbed. Hopefully you've enjoyed this review. Take care and bye-bye.